Welcome to week 6 out of 7 in our Shift program. This is titled by the program Shift of Confidence. I would call it Shift of Identity. Shift of Identity. This is about where the real change takes place. This is the real change. You know, everything that we've seen so far, you're still working in the world of Jacob. But at the end of the day, you're somebody new. You're Israel. So this is not just about being confident in your action. This is about actually being somebody new. At this point in the story, what I'm going to do is start with the story a little bit, because I want to see how we go here as far as going back and forth between story and teaching. It might make this a little easier for us. So here we have Jacob sending out messengers. It says, Jacob also went on his way, and the angels of God met him. When Jacob saw them, he said, "This is the camp of God." So he named that place Mahanaim. Jacob sent messengers ahead of him to his brother Esau in the land of Seir, in the country of Edom. He instructed them, "This is what you are to say to my lord Esau. Your servant Jacob says, I have been staying with Laban, and I have remained there until now. I have cattle and donkeys, sheep and goats, male and female servants, and now I am sending this message to my lord, that I might find favor in your eyes." So Jacob has left Laban, and then after all that kerfuffle about separating from Laban, he's focused now on his trip the rest of the way back to the Holy Land. But the catch for Jacob is that, well, this means he's now in range of Esau, right? It's been 20 years since he's last seen Esau, so he's not sure how this is going to go. Is he still ticked at me for stealing the inheritance and the blessing? Don't know. So he sends out these messengers. Well, let's suss this out and see how Esau's going to be. Now, when this program starts back in week 1, we talked about this process of Jacob stealing things from Esau. And we say, well, internally, this is about how we have to let truth lead. We have to learn the truth and learn to apply it. But that ultimately it's Esau, the good loves that are within us, that has to actually lead. We've got to get there eventually. And so as we work our way through this story, we've been looking at the steps of learning the truth and applying the truth and consciously choosing to do the truth over and over and over again until it becomes part of who we are. But throughout all this, it's truth that's leading. And now we're coming to the point where it's going to swap. You're going to have Esau in charge. You're going to be a new person. And so Secrets of Heaven 45:38, so in the back cover of your order of service, talks about what's going on here. It says, good is a word used to mean spiritual good, which implies willing and doing to another that which is good not for any selfish reason, but out of delight and affection for doing it. Once a person has been supplied with the truths of faith, he is then gradually led by the Lord to will the truth, and from willing it to putting it into practice. This truth is called the good of truth. For that good is truth present in will and action, and is called the good of truth, because truth, which has been a matter of doctrine, now becomes a matter of life. When at length the person takes delight in willing good, and so putting it into practice, it's no longer called the good of truth, but simply good. For now he is regenerate. Little side note for those of you who think we never be regenerate, there it is. Now he is regenerate, and is no longer truth leading him to will and do what is good, but good moving him to will and put truth into practice. This passage helps a little bit with some of your new church jargon. Whenever you hear good of truth, what is that? Oh, it's kind of when you're still being led by truth, and then you do the good. Good is simply you're led by good. So there's a lot in there. But it gives you the idea of what's happening in this story. It's this transition. It's a pretty advanced stage of spiritual growth, yes. I get that. But like Jacob sending out messengers to Esau, when we're on the verge of this change, we just kind of, let's put this out there. Let's see if this actually works. To obey the truth, not because there's something in it for you. It's a way of doing the truth because it's the right thing to do. And what you see in the story is that it's not a way, you can't just kind of tiptoe your way into it. You can't just back your way into it. You can't just wake up there. This is going to be work. It's going to involve conflict and crisis. You can imagine Jacob sending out those messengers, waiting for them to come back. Oh, gee, how's Esau going to be? I wonder how he's going to take this. And the messengers come back saying, Esau's coming to meet you. And he has a small army with him. Jacob's just like, I've done everything right. I've done everything right. This isn't, you're not supposed to meet me with an army, right? That's not how this is supposed to go. The next little slide, just a couple lines here. It says, when messengers returned to Jacob, they said, we went to your brother Esau, and now he's coming to meet you. And 400 men are with him. Not what he's looking for. Not what he's looking for. It doesn't seem fair, right? He's doing what the Lord told him to do. The Lord told you to go back to Haran. He said, come on. I've made a lot of progress. And now he feels like he's going to lose everything. All that stuff he's worked so hard to get. It's now at risk. The same thing happens to us, right? We've been trying as hard as we can to do what the Lord says, and then it feels like our stuff is under attack. And this is like a big part of this series, I think. Because when we undergo temptations, we think, oh, I've accomplished nothing. I'm still under crisis. I'm still under attack. I've been working at this stuff for years. Why is it still there? But we have to understand that it's because of the progress that we've made. That's why the geography of this thing helps. He starts in one place. It's because of the progress he made in Haran, that when he comes back to Canaan, there is this conflict. Because of the progress he made here, this trip is allowed to happen, which brings more conflict. It's the idea where, okay, you've decided, I'm going to be more honest at work. I'm going to stop pilfering office supplies from the company. And, you think, all right, well, I'm going to start doing that. Well, then you start to realize other ways in which you've been dishonest too. Uh-oh. Oh, you know what? I know nobody cared about this, but, I was doing that, and, guess what? That's not actually fair. It's not actually right. We start noticing our other flaws when we say, this is what I'm going to work on. In the writings, spiritual crisis, they are temptations in many forms, right? They're not just being tempted to go eat the cinnamon scrolls, right? Temptation is about, we want to do something bad, and we feel bad because something we love is under attack. That's the big thing. Something we love is under attack, and therefore we feel this despair, this anxiety. We lose our job. Our sense of confidence comes under attack, right? We get into an argument with a close friend, and suddenly that relationship, something we love, is under attack. We get into an argument, and maybe it's the principles that we have, that we hold dear, come under attack. We can be working hard at being a good parent. And then we see our kid or grandkid do something stupid that we think is ridiculous. And our confidence in our parenting skills come under attack. So no matter what the temptation is, it's that despair from something we love being assaulted that's in play here. So what does Jacob do when he has confronted with this situation? Well, Jacob's always got a plan, right? So he divides the camp and starts working about sending some gifts. So it says, in great fear and distress, Jacob divided the people who were with him into two groups. flocks and herds and camels as well. He thought, if Esau comes and attacks one group, the group that is left may escape. Then he prays, O God of my father Abraham, God of my father Isaac, Lord, you who said to me, right, you told me, go back to your country and to your relatives, and I will make you prosper. I am unworthy of all the kindness and faithfulness you have shown your servant. If I only had my staff when I crossed this Jordan, but now I have become two camps. Save me, I pray, from the hand of my brother Esau, for I am afraid he will come and attack me, and also the mothers with their children. But you have said, I will surely make you prosper and make your descendants like the sand of the sea, which cannot be counted. He spent the night there, and from what he had with him he selected a gift for his brother Esau. 200 female goats, 20 male goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 female camels with their young, 40 cows and 10 bulls, and 20 female donkeys and 10 male donkeys. He put them in the care of his servants, each herd by itself. And he said to them, Go ahead of me and keep some space between the herds. He instructed the one in the lead, When my brother Esau meets you and asks, Who do you belong to? And where are you going? And who owns all these animals in front of you? Then you are to say, They belong to your servant Jacob. They are gifts sent to my lord Esau, and he is coming behind us. He also instructed the second, third, and all the others who followed the herds. You are to say the same thing to Esau when you meet him. And be sure to say, Your servant Jacob is coming behind us. For he thought, I will pacify him with these gifts I am sending on ahead. Later when I see him, perhaps he will receive me. So Jacob's gifts went on ahead of him, but he himself spent the night in the camp. Three-part plan, right? Divide the camp, pray, send gifts. When Jacob hears that Esau is coming, he's greatly afraid and distressed, and he tries desperately to figure out what to do. In temptation, we also have that despair, that panic. What if I never find a job again? What if I can't fix this friendship? What if I can't do these things? What do we do in these situations? Well, Jacob tries three things. Divide the camp, turn to God, send gifts, right? This is what he knows how to do. And each of these things represents something that we can do in temptation. At this point, Jacob has 4 wives, 11 sons, 1 daughter, large flocks and herds, and him dividing these up as a picture how of when we are in crisis, we rethink everything that we've learned. We rethink about all the things that we've loved, all the things that we've experienced. Clearly something isn't working. So, what does Jacob do? He turns to God and says, Hey God, remember, you promised to look after me. I know I'm not worthy, but you said. So we pray similar prayers, right? God, you told me if I just followed your word, this would all work out for me, right? Does God respond? No. There's no response to Jacob. And it feels like he's not responding to us either. Kind of the touchstone on the story is, crossing of the Red Sea. Moses cries out, what are we going to do? And the Lord says, why are you asking me? Get out your rod and go forward. What are you bothering me for? Same thing here. No response. We know God is still looking after Jacob. And the same thing is true for us. So Jacob sends over 550 animals as Esau to a present. And this is the next step in our process. Being willing to give up something that we care about. Right? Jacob's whole life has been about accumulating stuff. I'm going to go to Haran, I'm going to work this system, I'm going to work out Uncle Laban, I'm going to get all these, speckled and spotteds. But he realizes what may save him is letting go of some of this stuff, right? when we realize that we have to give up the idea of being right to save a relationship, we're in this spot right here, giving the gifts. Maybe we're willing to give it up in that case. The next part of the story is where Jacob gets into this wrestling match. And just as a little ancient geography here, this is where he is. So Haran's over there, obviously Holy Land here. So he's nearly back, just to kind of show you where this is all going down. So that night, Jacob got up and took his 2 wives, his 2 female servants, and his 11 sons and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. And after he sent them across the stream, he sent over all his possessions. So Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until daybreak. When the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip, so that his hip was wrenched as he wrestled with the man. Then the man said, "Let me go, for it is daybreak." So when we're in this temptation and we're forced to rethink things, we beg the Lord for help, and then we have to let go of something we care about. And what do we want next? We want the temptation to be over. We want this to be done. Because Jacob feels like he's done everything he can. But if you notice in this scene, he's separated from his family, and he's wrestling with this man all night. In our life, this is, all right, you've had that conflict with somebody. You're arguing with your spouse over money or something like that, and you reach the point of an impasse, and you both step back and go away. You rethink and you pray. And even if you come to a conclusion in your mind, it's not over yet, is it? Because you've both just retreated to your corners. At some point, you have to come back and re-engage. And maybe it's one spouse saying to the other, "All right, I want to hear what you've got again. Tell me your side. What am I missing here?" It's that re-engagement. But you've got to. It's tricky. Because in this, you might have said some things that weren't so nice. So you got to wrestle through this and, work it out. Right? Because the conflict isn't over. We still have to decide how to go forward. Now in this story, Jacob doesn't give in. He keeps wrestling until the break of day. And this is despite having his hip dislocated, which has to be painful. And he holds on to receive a blessing. So this process isn't without its difficulty. It's not without its pain. But somehow, like in our life, and the spouse example, right? You've got to not lash out in anger, but you also got to not withdraw and do nothing. Right? There's that both, right? You both have to stay in the conversation. But then, last part of the story, there is a blessing. There is a blessing. Jacob replied, "I will not let you go until you bless me." The man asked him, "What is your name?" "Jacob." Then the man said, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome." Jacob said, "Please tell me your name." "Why do you ask my name?" And he blessed him there. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, "It is because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared." The sun rose above him as he passed Peniel, and he was limping because of his hip. Therefore to this day Israelites do not eat the tendon attached to the socket of the hip, because the socket of Jacob's hip was touched near the tendon. So what's the blessing that comes out of going through temptation? A big part of it is the value of seeing the changes that we've made. the rethinking, the turning to God, the letting go. And we wouldn't have done any of this if there wasn't a crisis, right? We don't want the crisis, but it's this crisis that forces us to go through that process. If everything's fine, why would you think about praying to God and letting go and all that kind of stuff, right? And this is why the Lord allows temptations to go on as long as they do. Secrets of Heaven says, the time of conflict when the Lord is at work and He does not rest until love takes the lead, then the conflict ends. This is why the Lord doesn't listen to your prayers saying, stop this. He still has work to do. He's not done with you yet. The Lord is working to what? He's looking to give us a new identity. And this is really, super relevant in today's world of identity politics. Because everything's trying to preserve the identity. And the church is saying, no. The goal is to give you a new one. The goal is to give you a new spiritual identity. We spend a lot of our life being Jacob, right? The person who tricks and shucks and jives and does whatever he can to make a deal so things work out better for him by doing what he wants. The Lord is working to turn us into Israel, right? In the story, Jacob is named Israel because he struggled with God and man and has prevailed. But the Hebrew name can also mean God struggles, or God contends as a prince. And a person who is named Israel spiritually is a person who struggles as hard as they can to follow the Lord and acknowledges that it's the Lord who's struggling for them. Israel's a person who's focused on being right, but doing the right, or isn't focused on being right, but doing the right thing for the sake of other people. Right? Israel's a person who's in the lead. This is a change of identity. He's no longer trying to make deals to make things come out ahead for him. And that's a challenge. It's a challenge for us. We go through these temptations, these points of crisis, and we have to do the same thing. Can we make it through the difficult conversations with our friends and family and be willing to say, all right, I'm willing to give something up. Here are the hurts. Lord, tell me what I'm missing here. Let me open up. Can I get through this? Can I get through the wrestling and the digesting and fighting over the points of view and not lash out and not take off and leave and hide either, right? Either of those are normal outcomes. So in the end, he does receive a greater blessing. And it's emerging from this process with a new quality about him, right? He's more humble. He's more open to change. He's more loving. And that's what this shift is about. It's about a shift of identity. It's the hardest part for sure. It's the hardest part because you've been Jacob for a long time. And it's scary to give that up. Amen. So I have just put in a musical interlude here, so just sit back for a couple minutes and reflect.